You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Imaging Services, Mahalo Wellness, Chiro Health USA, The Goodman Factor, Chiro Moguls, Local Gold, Chiro Thin, McCaffrey's Clinical Mentoring, and Chiropractic Rocks. Let's hustle. This is a friend of mine that I met at a seminar called Unblinded, and it's really interesting because I know you do work with the blind, and that's something that we're going to talk about as we segue into the interview segment here. You're coming in today from Seattle area?
I flew into Seattle. I live in I live about 30 miles north of Salt Lake City in Utah, but I'm here visiting my love, my one.
Awesome. And I'm coming in today from Colorado, Grand Junction area, the Grand Valley. And I know that there's some things that we're going to talk about today that are going to give people some insight into how that they can keep their health stronger and how they can keep their vitality better and what they can do to actually maybe take some action with you. And what you have to offer to them is some solutions for a better quality of life, better quality of health, and maybe some better vision.
Fantastic. Pleasure to be here. It's an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and I really believe that energy put us together. And I was out watching Joseph McClendon speak on an invite from Jared Yellen. And you happened to be in row 1, and I was in row 2. And, there's always at a seminar, if you guys know, you get up and sometimes you do these exercises where you turn around and you introduce yourself to somebody for 30 seconds. And maybe it was a minute, I don't know, but that's how we got a chance to meet each other. And we've stayed in touch. And you were telling me about some of the initiatives that you're doing, and you're very helpful with sharing information to people and serving your community. And I guess the first thing that I'd like to touch on with you is vibrational frequency and how that affects our health and how that really affects our wealth. So if you can maybe elaborate on that topic, that would be helpful to people, our viewers.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jim. Well, first of all, everybody, welcome to this podcast. My name is Nate Zeleznick. I'm the CEO of the Vibrovision Foundation, as well as the MP USA Martial Arts School in Ogden, Utah. And we specialize in meditation and a lot of breath work and creating more electricity in our body. And so vibrational frequency, why is that important? Well, everything is energy. Physics understands this. They ad nauseum telling everything is vibration. If it's a color, if it's physical matter, if it's a radiation source, everything is a vibration. And as the amazing Dr. Joe Dispenza says, everything that has a frequency carries information. Mm-hmm. So if we're able to, and I was just actually listening to Gary Zukav earlier today, the Seat of the Soul, excuse me, and he was talking about light, that everything is a form of light. Well, some things are a faster wavelength of light than others. So if we have high emotions, say love, joy, peace, gratitude, that's a much higher vibration of light. That's a much faster vibration or a brighter light. If we have things like hate, shame, anger, rage, despair, you know what it's like when you don't feel very good, you're down in the dumps, that's a lower frequency of light. So if we think of everything in the form of light is just a very good way of thinking about it, because we're all very familiar with a dim light and a bright light and a blinding light. And so if we're able to get our cells to vibrate on a frequency that is much higher, we're going to have a better sense of health. We're going to have a better sense of perception. We're going to have overall a better sense of happiness and joy in our life because we're vibrating at a higher frequency. And I think pretty much everybody understands what it's like to have good vibes, right? And we also know what it's like when somebody's got a dark shadow over them, or they're taking the energy of the room down. Mm-hmm. So it's very important that, especially in this time where it's not, I don't think that COVID is just affecting people, obviously not just affecting people physically, it's also affecting people psychologically and energetically. Being stuck at home, being fed so much negative material from different news sources causing people to be afraid, that is definitely a lower frequency of light.
Well, some of the things that you're saying there really coincide with my target audience, which is chiropractic. But also, I'm going to touch on what you were just saying is a lot of the people, it's not so much of the virus thing that people are actually becoming affected by, it's the stress and it's the mental illness. And within chiropractic, there's this big word that is used to, it's an inner chiropractic word, but sometimes chiropractors actually use it to explain a misalignment in the spine to a patient, and it's called subluxation. And if you disassemble that word, you get less than light. And Asian is connection and less light connection inside of us. And as I've studied chiropractic as a journalist, I realized that the body we are beings of light. And when we are out of alignment, that causes a misalignment in our nervous system, which makes a misalignment in our organ system and our tissue systems. So when people think about what you do with how you help people restore back to homeostasis or balance of health through meditation and breath work and martial arts, now we're changing the subject into how can we be healthier through personal responsibility, to where even if there is a dogmatic approach to the media, that we still have the ability to stay healthy with our thoughts and with our stresses.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And you know, I know that you have you told me how you got into working with the blind. Let's just tell people about how that started for you and what you're doing today with that.
You bet, you bet. Well, Jim, that's awesome. Well, just to tell you a little bit about what we do, of what Vibe Revision is, because the martial art that I teach is called Merpati Puti, which means the white dove system of martial arts from the royal family of Java, Indonesia. Myself and my brother Mike, we're the first Westerners that have ever been allowed to learn this. And we brought it here to America 21 years ago for a very specific reason. There are a lot of martial arts, right? A lot of martial arts in the world, and they're all wonderful. But there is one martial art that had some amazing things that we've never seen before, and that's the Merpati Putti system. Well, 21 years ago, I got an Inner Power VHS tape and I brought it home. Well, I didn't bring it home. It was sent to me in the mail, and we watched it. And it had all these different Indonesian martial arts doing some crazy stuff. I mean, crazy, weird stuff we'd never seen before. But one of the things that was being demonstrated was people running through obstacle courses and riding bicycles, riding motorcycles, and shooting targets, military members shooting targets while they're blindfolded and had hoods on. We're like, wow, that's A, got to be fake. B, they're really good at that. Of course, you don't watch that something like that just once. So we watched it about 5 times. We're like, okay. Well, my brother Mike and I, we've both been involved in the martial arts for a long time, and he'd been involved in martial arts as like a serious competitor and judge. He has multiple black belts. Well, he'd never seen anything like this, but we just kind of left it at that. Cool, Indonesian people do martial arts, and the next day I saw a blind person. When I was stopped at the light, I looked, and there was a blind individual with their guide dog. And the guide dog went around the light pole and led the blind person into the light pole. So I thought to myself, geez, ding, I wonder if those Indonesian people do anything to help blind people. So I took a couple weeks and I was able to track them down. This is in the earlier days of the internet, right? So I was at the public library looking up martial arts from Indonesia and seeing without your eyes. And I finally found the people who had made that video, or at least the people who were in the video. Well, I finally got a hold of them. It took a while and a lot of faxing. Yeah, those were the fax days. And I was able to contact them, and some people actually found some people that spoke English. And I asked them, do you train blind people? And they're like, yeah, we've trained thousands of blind people. And our special forces, we trained them in this too. I'm like, okay, so I'd really like to see this for myself and see if there's something that you guys could do to help American blind people. So I hosted the very first demonstration of Vibrovision. That's our trademark term. It's the science of vibration. is what it translates to in Indonesian in their words. So I was able to bring the first contingent over here to demonstrate this, and I had two blind individuals on this team. They walked right into my house, went cooked me dinner. They knew where everything was. They could sense where things were. It was like they knew where everything was, even though their eyes were white, no pupils. I believe they both have glaucoma, so no light perception. And it just cinched it for me right there that this is something that I can really do some good for a huge community. But not just because I've been a long time meditator. Started having out of body experiences and a lot of different meditation experiences from a young age. I knew that this could help everybody in the world, not just the blind community, but the mind community as well. Well, they'd never trained a Westerner. It was forbidden actually. They trained over 1 million Indonesians, but they'd never allowed a non-Indonesian to train. And so my brother Mike and I became the first under a former Special Forces trainer living in Salt Lake, getting his postdoctoral master's degree. And so we were allowed to train, and then we were allowed to open the very first school of this outside of Indonesia. But it was only to train the martial arts and the internal energy building and the meditation part, not the vibrovision. That came later. So after my brother Mike went and lived there with the royal family for 6 months several years ago, he brought this methodology back and really started in earnest training people in a pilot project. And now what we've been able to do is help people to expand their mind to the point where they can perceive and basically see, but it's not sight. It's an internal sense of sight, like in your mind's eye, kind of like a dream that is so real that you know you saw that. It's like the details are incredible. Well, obviously your eyes are closed, but you're still perceiving that, right? It's kind of like that to the point where people can read text messages, they can draw, they can identify colors, they can ride bicycles or drive cars or play laser tag and absolutely rule at laser tag and drive go-karts when they're completely blindfolded. And we've been able to document this and prove it medically, scientifically, and neurologically, or to neuroscience with brain mapping. And so we're getting ready now to really unveil this to the country and start bringing this to a larger scale. But I digress. There's one thing I didn't mention, and that is our team of blind students. We call them the Phoenix crew. They actually named themselves that. There are 5 blind individuals in Phoenix, Arizona that have been training with my brother Mike for the past couple of years. And they're from Phoenix, and they are like the phoenix rising out of the ashes of blindness. And they are just, they're my heroes. Absolutely my heroes. And so we're working in the blind community as well as scientific community. And yeah, our whole purpose and our goal, our mission, our identity here is to really help reshape the paradigm of human consciousness and functional human consciousness in a reproducible way. So that when people come and they want to go from point A to point holy crap, we have a method to help them do that in as little as a week to at least give them the basic skills where they can start building it. Nobody goes from A to holy crap in 1 week. It does take time, but the basic skills to do that can be done in as little as 5 days with my brother Mike, the head trainer for all of North and South America, at the helm, training people personally here in Ogden, Utah. Or no, I'm actually in Seattle right now, but in our school in Ogden, Utah.
Well, what you're saying is that, and I'm just going to paraphrase, is that you can have people heal from inside out.
You know, the vibrovision skill is mainly about perception. However, we also teach the royal family of Indonesia their system of breath work, which is unlike any in the entire world. People now breath work's becoming like the new it's the new buzzword. Oh, breath work. Okay. It's been around for hundreds and hundreds of years because the first thing we do when we're born and the last thing we do before we die is take a breath, right?
And
So,
you
but it's
can't get, and you can't get the last breath you took back.
nope. And it's one of the things that we neglect the most to actually pay attention to while we're alive until we're out of it. Or if we're underwater, then we notice it. But for the most part, people are unconscious about their breath. But their breath is the most important biological function that we have. You can go, it's the rules of three, right? Like for wilderness survival, the rule of three. You can go for 3 weeks without, usually 3 weeks without food, 3 days without water, 3 minutes without air.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Imaging Services, Mahalo Wellness, Chiro Health USA, The Goodman Factor, Chiro Moguls, Local Gold, Chiro Thin, McCaffrey's Clinical Mentoring, and Chiropractic Rocks. Let's hustle.
I'm glad it's not 3 days without, 3 minutes without food, because we'd all.
Well, that's some survival literacy,
right?
And I think a lot of times people have, like you're saying, we can teach you guys these skill sets of functionality within 5 days, and I think that gives people a level of literacy, and we can talk about people's financial literacy, and we could talk about people's vocational literacy, and I think that giving people skill sets that are useful and applicable to real life, which are having more function in the body, learning about breathing, learning about meditation. These things up until a few years ago were looked at as woo-woo. Like, why would I need that? Like, why would I take time out of my day to chill out and to meditate? And why would I take time out of my day to work on my breathing techniques? And why would I, dedicate myself to learning some type of a martial art when I go to work and I have kids and, I root for my team and I hang out with my wife? Like, there's a lot of things, but I think one of the topics I kind of wanted to segue into before we finish up tonight is like personal responsibility and how the things that you teach people, and you have resources and tools, and you have units for people to focus on, and you give them the procession of process of how they can actually go through and basically equip themselves with skill sets to have a higher quality of life, to vibrate at a higher frequency, and to have more health for what they believe in.
Absolutely, Jim. Thank you. That was a fantastic transition into exactly where I wanted to go next. Because, the vibrovision scale is very specific, right? That's for the blind community, for perception, right? And for anybody who wants to expand their intuition, their perception, and also learn the breathing techniques that will create. I mean, if you have a body, this is for you. If you do them, you're going to have the result, because you have all of the key components necessary in order to create a greater vibrational state, or a higher vibrational state, and greater health. But, right now, I actually, during this COVID-19 time, I did something that we've never done before, that nobody in the world has ever done before, for the Merpati Puji method, which is I created a 50-minute workout where people can go right onto our MBS Recharge Facebook page right now and have a 50-minute workout with me. It's good cardio, stretching, energy development, energy sensing, and meditation, all in 50 minutes, which is really a very unique workout. And people can do this on every single day. And if you're working out with me for 50 minutes every single day, you're going to notice some different things happening in your body, but also in your mind and your perception and what you feel, because everything is energy. We know this. Everything is a vibration. So the thing is we want to make sure that if we're going to have excellent health, or we're going to live, why not do it consciously? Why live your freaking life on accident? Most people do. They get up and they go point awake to point asleep, and everything else that happens to them instead of for them. And they're not deliberate about their thoughts. They're not deliberate about their actions. They're not deliberate about their health. They're not deliberate about their entire being. And the thing is it doesn't happen by accident. You don't fall down the stairs and go, I'm enlightened. No, it does take work, but there is no other work more worth it. Because in the end, we're all going to transition. We're going to change our address. How far do you want to go before you're at?
So let me go on a little bit of a speed round with you because I know we have
Do it.
about 7 minutes left.
Got it.
Tell me a miracle story that you've seen with the VibraVision systems.
Okay. I'm going to tell you two really fast ones. Okay. First one, a gentleman by the name of Bruce came into it was called the Wealth of Health program, but now we call it the MBS Recharge program, the breath techniques, meditation, and body postures that build your electricity. He came in, his lungs had been damaged in a trip to Nepal. He was going to the base camp of Everest. A Sherpa gave him some herbs. It damaged his lungs to the point where he had to be on an oxygen tank and he couldn't get his pulse ox level above, I believe it was 85%. He had to have on oxygen at all times. Well, he was an LDS gentleman. He wanted to go on a mission with his wife, an LDS mission with his wife for about 10 years, but he couldn't. The church would not let him go because of his health. He came and trained with us for 3 months. After 3 months, he was able to maintain his pulse ox, his oxygen level in his blood above 95%. They let him go on his mission. It was his life's dream. That was 3 months worth of training. Almost every single person that is trained with us that follows our method, if they have asthma, at least within 6 months, has reported not having asthma anymore. Some of the people to the point where they were having to be put on ventilators. Their asthma was so bad after 6 months, and actually they used to live up here in the Seattle area, but now they don't. But one lady, she used to be put on a ventilator on life support at least once a year. She did this after 6 months. She has never had an asthma attack again, and it's been now about 18 years. Third, the biggest miracle, one of the biggest miracles that I told you a little bit before, was one of our blind students. She's a freaking rock star in Unblinded, but she's just a freaking rock star in life. She's one of my favorite people on the planet. She came and trained with my brother Mike, who, God, if there's, as far as trainers are concerned and finding ways to help people understand such an obscure, difficult concept, he's magic. Well, she trained with him for 2 days. She's been blind for 10 years, like no light perception. And she was sitting on the ground crying. My brother Mike walked over and he asked her, are you okay? What's wrong? And she's like, I can see my arms. I can see my arms. Like in her mental field, she could see her arms. And then he started holding up colors and she's like, that's yellow. That's red. That's blue. Because she was catching and perceiving the frequency of the light, the frequency of the color. And she was processing it as a mental image, which is what we teach in VibraVision for blind and non-blind people. So that happens regularly. That's the thing is in the Merpati system, the miraculous is just, we get kind of bored with it. It's true. We just like, oh yeah, cool. People are driving cars with their eyes taped shut and wearing blindfolds. Oh, okay, yeah, cool. They're doing that. It's like, and other people go, huh? And that's the thing. You can get used to anything, including the miraculous. So there's 3 for you, Jim.
Love it. And I think that people are going to reach out to you and be curious even more because of the miracles that you've seen and that you've experienced. Now let's talk to you about you a little bit. What book are you reading right now?
What book am I reading right now? Well, I was listening to Seed of the Soul by I was listening to that earlier. But right now, I'll tell you what books are holding the computer up. The Gene Keys was the first one by Richard Rudd. And then Adventures in the Afterlife by Will Buellman. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Joe Dispenza. The Energy Codes by Dr. Sue Morter. Light reading. But I am a consummate reader. I love to have at least 3 or 4 books going on at once and see how they all relate to each other. So I'm really right now enjoying Gary Zukav's book, The Seed of the Soul, just because it's such a very digestible way of understanding the interconnectedness of all things and all people, which is the cornerstone of the Merpati system, is the oneness of all people and all things in nature. That we're all energy, we're all part of the same system. He just takes it to a much larger level, too, of everything in the universe is one. And I love that. I just absolutely love it.
So 2 more questions for you.
Sure.
what are your hobbies? What do you like to do when you're not helping people?
All right. So martial arts is definitely a passion of mine. Fly fishing. Fly fishing, not ice fishing, because you can't cast 40 feet and hit that little hole with fly rod. I just don't like ice fishing. But fly fishing, powered paragliding, scuba diving, skydiving is definitely I love throwing myself out of a plane. Indoor skydiving, so like wind tunnel flying, hiking. I like being outdoors. I really like the shelter that buildings provide, but I really enjoy the energy and the connectedness that I feel with myself and with everything when I'm not surrounded by a building.
Awesome, man. Last thing, is there anything I didn't ask you that you like to share with our audience today?
I would say, yeah. First of all, if you're really interested in changing your life, be serious about changing your life. Look into things, be discerning. But then when you find something that's really going to help you, whether it's what I do or whether it's going and seeing your chiropractor, definitely go see your chiropractor, guys. If it's Tibetan singing bowls or another kind of breath work, if maybe it's more Pratiputi and vibrovision, I don't know. Find something that's good for you and then pursue it. Go after it. Get it. It won't happen by itself. You have to make your life count, and you have to be proactive about living your damn life. Instead of letting it happen to you, realize it's all happening for you no matter what. Learn, pay attention.
I love it.
Oh.
Well, thank you for being my guest today, Nate. It's information-packed episode here of the Chiro Hustle live stream. And I'm going to go ahead and close out by saying you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks, Nate.
Thanks, Jim. Bye-bye.
Have a good night. Yep.
Thank you for listening to Chiro Hustle Live. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.